As the sun sets over the Alabama state capitol in Montgomery, a diverse collection of Americans files into this majestic building for dinner at the invitation of the governor. For Georgia Congressman John Lewis, this shared meal on the governor's grounds takes on great meaning.
When I was growing up, I never, ever had an opportunity to visit the Capitol. So to go there and to be welcomed by the governor was almost too much.
Everything hasn't changed as much as it should change, but an awful lot has changed for the better.
Mr. John Lewis.
In the mid-1960s, it was unclear whether change would ever come. On July 2, 1964, the Civil Rights Act was signed into law. Proposed by President Kennedy months before his assassination, the sweeping legislation specifically outlawed all forms of discrimination.
You have business in the courthouse.
But African Americans were still subject to arbitrary tests that deprived them of their most basic American freedom, the right to vote. The need for a specific Voting Rights Act was clear to activists.
People had to pass a so-called literacy test. On one occasion, a man was asked to count the number of bubbles in a bar of soap.
Dr. King used to talk about if you can't vote, you're not free. You're like a slave.
In 1965, youth advocate Cheyenne Webb was an 8-year-old girl living in a housing project next door to Brown Chapel AME Church in Selma, Alabama.
My house was right here, right around the corner. I could hear the voices of songs coming from the church that really would motivate and stimulate my interest as a child.
The church served as a gathering place for civil rights leaders. Webb spent much of her childhood inside its holy walls, absorbing the message of the movement.
We in the civil rights movement are challenged more than ever before to continue our righteous efforts.
By the time I met Dr. Martin Luther King, it was like meeting Santa Claus. And I was sitting right here on the front row.
To take a stand against injustice and the violence.
And even though I didn't quite understand everything, I understood that there was a great man standing in front.
Cheyenne and her best friend Rachel West would become two of Dr. King's youngest followers.
When he left on the first day that we had met him, he told us that he was coming back, and when he would come back, we needed to be ready to march.
And soon enough, there would be a reason.